Oh my goodness. I will eventually figure out what I'm doing with my life. Hello, everyone. It is Threxor. I promised contact lenses, but you know how promises go. Anyways, today's going to be a relatively short episode. We're going to start this with episode 1, where I'm doing my newbie's guide to StarCraft 2, where we talk about basic concepts. I will be doing a more in-depth review, kind of built in order, the way it's supposed to be on YouTube. Starting this week, I'm gonna. Oops, sorry about that. Autofocus. I'll be starting the series on YouTube this week. But today we're going to talk about a very simple subject that can be overly complex for some people to understand. We're going to be talking about wall-offs, mostly the wall-offs at the main ramp for Terran and Protoss. Zerg has a weird way that they can wall off if they have a very wide sort of ramp area. But today we're going to focus more on the Terran and Protoss types of wall-offs. We're going to look at a bad wall-off. We're going to look at a not-so-bad wall-off, and then we're going to look at 2 really awesome ways to wall off your ramp as Terran or Protoss to keep pesky Zergs out. And then from the Zerg perspective, we're going to look at how do you get past that. If I see a wall-off, what can I do to break it down? What kind of timing should I be looking at in order to break said wall down? With early game stuff, we're going to be looking at stuff that happens at about the 7-minute mark for wall-off breakdown. So for Zerg, we're going to be looking mostly at Banelings. You can do a little bit with Roaches. If you're going just straight for Roaches and you pretty much just skip Zerglings along the way. So there's a little bit that you can do with Roaches by dancing up and down the ramp, but we'll look at that as we get into today's episode. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into my game. The game that's not loading. Uh-oh. Houston, we have a problem. I will fix this. Don't you guys worry none of that about it all. Don't worry. I got this. Come on. Oh no! Okay, so we're running into some technical difficulties. I have to restart my entire StarCraft. So I'm gonna restart it. We're gonna hope that it works. So, while I sort out my technical difficulties, I'm going to enjoy you guys listening to some more music. Might as well just do that now. Soft, sultry music. Alright, I'll be back in a second. Okay, so I'm having to improvise using a screen region instead of the actual input itself. Bam! Game overlay, yeah! So while I go ahead and get this nonsense set up, we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about what we're looking at. So with starting with Terran, we're going to be discussing the pros and cons of using your supply depots in your wall-off. I'm going to show you a couple of examples of things that I've personally seen on the ladder and a lot of things that you can see on other people's streams. And then I'm going to show you some suggestions that I have if you're going for a particular kind of wall-off, what you should do, how you should move things around. So to start with, go ahead and pop into the game here. Let it finish loading up. Oh, of course, it always spazzes out right as I'm about to go into it. Load faster. Load faster. Load faster. Okay, there we go. So we're going to go ahead and set the train here to the small ramp. And this is the kind of ramp that you will most commonly see people try and wall off in the game. There's another version of this same ramp that's a little bit smaller, but the weird thing about it is this region right up here, the mouth of the ramp at the top of the base, is the same coverage size on the tiny ramps as it is on these ramps. So we're going to go ahead and switch to this guy. And the most common one that you will see is going to be this.
Yeah.
So this particular ramp, or this particular wall-off right here, it's extremely effective for early Terran because these two supply depots can come down really quick, and this barracks is also one of the first things that you build in-game. The only problem with this, and when we bust out the Zerg, 7 Zerg is the magic number. This is going to be about as many Zerg, or about as many Banelings as a Zerg player can have out at the 7-minute mark. Now that being said, I'm just going to go ahead and show you what you'll typically see. So you'll see these Banelings get told to attack structures, and then they'll just be run up here, and they'll get sent after one of the depots. And it'll destroy one depot, put the other one in the red, and then do a significant amount of damage against the barracks. But one little thing that a lot of people don't realize is that if you take these same Banelings, just 7 Banelings here, if none of them take damage, or if they all detonate, and you send them after the barracks instead of the 2 supply depots, the splash damage from all 7 of them actually reaches both supply depots. So now there's 2 entryways for Zerglings to run by, or roaches later on in the game. So this is not... It's an effective wall-off, but it's only effective at preventing scouting. It's not very effective at keeping Banelings from blowing down the door and just causing all sorts of hate and discontent inside your base. So if we go back, we clear the board, we grab this SUV here, we're going to go ahead and build something else that I've seen. Same thing again with the 2 supply depots, but this time the barracks is built back a little bit further. To start with, and then you park like a Marine or 2 just to deny the scouting drone here. Okay. Now what we'll typically see is you'll have this little corridor here that's replaced with either a reactor or a tech lab.
Add-on complete.
So you have the reactor or tech lab built on, but let's just go ahead and do some comparison of numbers here. So your barracks is 1,000 health. It's 1,000 hit points in order to tear down a barracks. Your... keep forgetting that my mouse cursor is constrained. Your supply depots are both at 400 health, right here at the bottom. The reactor is also at 400 health at the bottom. So when we take our Banelings and we tell them to attack and we run them up in here, it only took 6 of the Banelings to actually destroy all 3 of those buildings, and then there's an extra hit on the barracks in the back. Now, some pros to this is, yeah, you can have a Baneling bus that rips down your front door. If you have factory or air starport tech coming down, and you're able to push back the Zerglings that flow in afterwards, cool. Your barracks hasn't taken as much damage. It's a lot easier to repair. So, so far we've seen that supply depots, though they're really, really useful, are very, very weak when it comes to the wall-offs. Now, another one that I've seen that requires two supply depots, but is actually really, really effective, is this one right here. Now, I've encountered this once before on my ladder matches, and this is just downright devastating. So if you can scout that the Zerg opponent is going for Banelings, you can go ahead and drop a command center here, turn it into a planetary fortress. You're still able to sneak around you're still able to drop these supply depots and sneak around them if you need to. And when you have Banelings that try and run up into this, so we're just going to have them attack the planetary fortress. They're only able to bring these down to a third health. So, from a Terran perspective, if you know that a Zerg opponent is going Banelings, if you scout Banelings at all in the early game, and you know that you're going for some sort of early tech instead of early econ, you can totally just build a command center there, turn it into a planetary fortress. Yeah, it's going to sit there for the rest of the game, but I mean, honestly, if you can prevent the first opening Banelings from busting directly into your main base and just wreaking havoc, also for the ramps that are about that size, on your natural, this is a really good strategy as well, because that planetary fortress is going to continue to get utilization throughout the game, especially if you stay on two bases and you get a planetary at your natural expansion. That planetary fortress is quite an investment, but it ends up paying off against any ground armies that your opponent might throw at you, short of siege tanks and colossi and swarm hosts. But everything else that somebody could throw at you within the first 7 minutes of the game, that planetary fortress will be able to take care of quite easily. So I'm going to go ahead and go back in this particular setup, clear it all out, and we're going to look at some Protoss stuff. Now I have to really focus when I do this because I always mess it up somehow. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Blammo. Boom. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and enable music on the sound and pop us back over to the game. Wrong way. Okay, so this is what you normally see from a Protoss player. For Protoss, this looks like it's runnable, but if you highlight both of the buildings, you see that the circles intersect. So this is actually a solid wall off. I'm going to turn off the music since it's really loud and annoying. This is actually a really solid wall off right here. Even though it looks like something can get through. The only issue that I have with this one is the Zealot right here. So a lot of people, you'll see them just leave them there. So with Zerg, you'll have something like this happen. And then Zerglings come in and run by him. That was devastating. And you'll have the Zerglings run by him. So the big thing whenever you're Protoss and you're building this kind of a wall, or any wall that requires a Zealot, make sure that you select hold position. In the standard layout, I believe it's H. In the grid layout, it's E. I prefer grid. It's so that I don't have to think about what hotkey goes where. I just glance down at my command card, see that it's the third one on the top row, and I automatically just press E. On the subject of hotkeys, the next couple of series we're going to talk about hotkeys, hotkey selection, what you should do, how you should pick them. Hotkeys are all about what is comfortable for you. I have gigantic man hands, long fingers but very flexible fingers, so I can reach. I feel comfortable hitting a key like this, So I play with grid because all the keys are right there. I'm comfortable hitting like the bottom row ZX, C, V, B by flicking at them instead of actually pressing down, and it's comfortable for me. Whatever you choose to play as. I know some people like to spread their keys all over the board so their hand is dancing. I like to plant my wrist on my keyboard so that I don't move it. But anyways, back to the game. So this is a setup that you commonly see. You'll either see it with one gateway and a Cybernetics core or two gateways. Notice the pylon placement back here, not in the wall like the supply depots for Terran. For Protoss, the numbers end up working out to be the same. It's 1,000 health total for the gateway, it's 1,100 for the Cybernetics core, only 400 for a pylon. So with this kind of a setup, you'd be actually really hard pressed to get in here. I did an experiment one time. It took me 14 banelings to blow down this wall. It takes 5 out of the 7 banelings to destroy the one zealot. So this kind of a play where you have the zealot in place, if you're going up against a Zerg player and you suspect a baneling bust coming at the 7-minute mark, plant a zealot there, have a couple back here in reserve, because this is surprisingly effective. So by the 7-minute mark, you can have one zealot there. You can take your other remaining zealots and you can pump them back to here. Spread them out if you need to. Sometimes the ramps allow this, sometimes it doesn't. But I mean, 5 zealots is 100 minerals, and these zealots will prevent any banelings or zerglings from getting by, even if you do something along this. So as you can see, the initial 7 banelings, which any Zerg player that's trying to baneling bust will not build any more, but they usually won't build any less than 7. So 5 zealots, it's 500 minerals. It is a bit of an investment, but at what point do you make the call for am I willing to run the risk of having a run by, or should I just seal off my ramp? So one of the last ones that I want to look at here. I'm gonna hide this. I want it to be a surprise. I want it to be a surprise. Something that I have just recently seen. That's wrong. That's wrong.
I can't build here.
I'll get it right eventually, guys. I promise. Now, I have seen this style of wall-off before, and I really don't recommend it. Oh no, whatever. So I have seen this kind of a wall-off before. It almost screams that you're trying to keep your Cybernetics core from getting blown up by banelings more than you are the pylon that's powering it all. But I mean, honestly, you have this zealot that's on hold position because you're a good Protoss player on your wall-off and you don't want anything to sneak by you. But I mean, these banelings will just come up and they'll just blow the crap out of this pylon. And now, not only do you have a wide open hole here, but if it was the only pylon, if it was an Artosis pylon, now you have these 2 buildings that are unpowered, you're unable to reinforce your army. The research that this was probably either almost done with or halfway through with is now halted, and this just is not good. So, some of the things that we talked about so far has been walling off your base, like the actual specifics of how these wall-offs work, some pros, some cons. I'd like to take a few minutes now to talk about the reasoning why. Why would a Terran or a Protoss player decide that they want to build a wall off? What's the deciding factor on building a wall off? I've looked at kind of how you're playing the game. There's a couple of reasons why. First, if this style of ramp is at your natural, a wall off is really, really good for any of those players that are going for any sort of two-base aggression. The wall off prevents any sort of early scouting from coming in. It prevents your opponent from really seeing what's going down without putting themselves on the back foot. Plus, the wall off itself helps protect you against an actual attack that happens at the 7-minute mark, when normally you yourself would be wanting to push it 8 minutes or 9 minutes. So, with Terran and Protoss, the two-base, gateway all-ins, the two-base bio pushes, two-base Widowmine drops, two-base into air, a lot of the two-base really heavy, really fast play is going to benefit a lot from having that wall off at the natural. So, seeing what your opponent does is really, really helpful for Terran and Protoss in the very early stages of the game before your build has been selected and before you commit to anything really, really painful. So, with that being said, Zerg, on the note of the Baneling bust, you can, almost every single game, start by trying to bust down a wall off if you see it coming. You can go Zerglings, Banelings, and try and blow it down at the 7-minute mark with the wall off. And if your macro is smart, as in if they wall off at their natural, go ahead and grab a second and third base. If your initial pokes or scouts see certain types of unit compositions there, build the counter to follow up your Zerglings, at least get the tech structures down, so that you can then mass process them out of the 3 hatcheries that you're going to have. You can attempt a Baneling bust to just blow down your opponent's front door and then run some Zerglings by anyways. You can actually, if successfully pull it off, delay your opponent quite a bit. One thing of note about Zerg: do not commit to an all-in. If you see a wall off, see if you can blow it down. If it doesn't work, move on to your next step of tech. Move on to the tech choice that you've selected based off of the scouting information that you've gleaned. By the 7-minute mark, you should have already sacrificed one of your overlords to scout out and see if you can see any sort of tech in your opponent's base. That being said, there will be a video going up about Overlord scouting and drone scouting and scouting in general for all 3 races. But I'm going to start by putting together a little vignette for the Zerg, because that's the race I'm most familiar with. So, today we talked about the use of walls from Terran and Protoss. The Zerg has a very weird... I'll see if I can create one, actually. No, I don't want that. Negative. I need a pass. Yeah. So this is going to be a really, really kind of bad example, but it should be enough to kind of get you on your feet. I'm just going to show you how I'm kind of theorizing this here. Okay, so with this particular kind of a wall off from Zerg, whoa, what just happened? Oh, whoops, haha. All right, let's fix this. Wow, I can't believe I did that. I'm such a noob. Don't mind me one bit. Okay, so I apologize if the game starts lagging out. I've been having issues with my PC all day. The stream works fine, but from a Zerg perspective, this is a common wall off that you see. There's a couple of little tiny spots where units will get through. You'll only really see this up against a meching player. But basically what you can do is this... I'm going to make this guy move because he'll either be planted there or there. And what you do is you fill the hole with a couple of queens and you just transfuse back and forth here because this will be the spot where you get the most damage done to you as a Zerg player. So this is what you normally see as a Zerg player when you're trying to wall off, and you'll only really see this wall off come up if you have very early Hellion aggression, because it's very ineffective against Reapers or Bio or anything like that, because the units are so small, and then they'll just keep darting back and forth and moving very rapidly. This is really good for denying Hellions the ability to get back into the base, because it'll take them forever to kill these queens, and even longer to try and kill off the buildings. So that's all the information that I currently have on wall-offs. We talked about the Terran wall-offs. There's three major kinds. You have the double supply depot with either a barracks wedged between them, a barracks with a add-on wedged between them, or a command center there. The command center one's very, very handy. If you see the really, really early Baneling nest go down, you can most definitely turn that particular command center into a planetary fortress if you want. And as we saw, the 7 Banelings that a Zerg player will normally have at the 7-minute mark when they're actually going to try and break down your front door get two-shotted by that planetary fortress. Only about 2 of them make it up the ramp. They only bring down the buildings to a third health, and you've successfully just stalled out a Zerg player that tries to do some sort of Baneling all-in with some Speedlings on the back, or if they're going for any sort of Roach push. Roaches will tear down walls really, really quickly as well, but the Planetary Fortress just does too much damage. On the Protoss side of the house, we looked at one of the only ways that Protoss really distinguishes itself with the wall off, and that's going to be Gateway Cybercore right there at the front, kind of off-kiltered. You leave one little tiny square open for a Zealot to plug. You let the Zealot sit there and plug that ramp. We looked at some of the downsides to it. We also looked at one of the buildings, or one of the wall-offs for Protoss, where the pylon is used in the wall. It's not that common anymore. It used to be really common when the Protoss just completely sealed off their wall with all their buildings, didn't bother building the Zealot, went with some sort of air tech, or went with some sort of very, very quick sort of robo facility tech. Wow. With some sort of robo facility tech with Immortals or Colossus, and then you just burn down the pylon because it dies really quickly. And their pylons are pretty disposable for Protoss when you have them set up properly. So, and then finally we looked at the only time that Zerg ever walls off, and that is with the double Evo and Spinecrawler with the holes plugged by queens. The only time you'll ever see Zerg do that is when they are getting when they're going up against a very heavy Hellion force. More recently, you see it with as a matter of fact, there was a match in DreamHack today between Teja and MMA, I want to say, where MMA went. It wasn't MMA; it was somebody else. His Terran opponent went straight into Hellions, going to transition into Blue Flame, Hellbat, Siege Tank type play, and Teja actually used the wall off, the double Evo, this wall off right here. He used the double Evo Spinecrawler with the queen backing and was able to successfully hold it off and actually won that match. So that being said, like I said, today was going to be a really short episode. I'm actually at the half-hour mark, like I said I was going to. You'll find this episode loaded up to YouTube as soon as it as soon as Twitch finishes doing their thing with it, then I'll go ahead and send that straight over to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Threxor. I'm currently looking at getting a website put together. I don't have a domain name for it yet. But you can find me here on Twitch. I'll be doing these episodes pretty regularly, Saturdays and Sundays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. I think the new time will work out a lot for everybody else. There will be 2 new tournaments going down by the end of the month. One is going to be the league that's being hosted by Osborne. I don't know. If you go to the day9.tv, here, I'll drag this over into the game screen. If you go to the day9.tv webpage, it is the Day 9 Tournament League Season 1 signups. I'll be casting some of those games. And then there's a Among the Shadows tournament that will probably be starting up on the 28th. So, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. And I will be casting again on Saturday. I will have placed on my Twitter account or on YouTube or Facebook something about what I'm going to be talking about. I'll even put it in the news sections down below. Or if you're using the other version, it's on the side for Twitch. And I'll have a topic picked out for then, probably something else very, very simple as I put together my big show. My focus is on my YouTube channel right now. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Get out there, play on the ladder, and I hope to see you guys next time.